In the world of elite military operations, where split-second decisions mean the difference between life and death, everyone has a role to play. But what happens when the most crucial person in the room is the one nobody notices? When survival depends not on the strongest soldier or the sharpest marksman, but on someone whose expertise has been dismissed, overlooked, and undervalued for years? This is the story of Lieutenant Sarah Chen, a communication specialist whose quiet competence was overshadowed by louder voices and bigger personalities. For 3 years, she had been the invisible backbone of SEAL Team 7's operations, ensuring secure communications while watching others receive recognition for missions she helped make possible. But on a fog-shrouded night in hostile territory, when Commander Jake Morrison's carefully planned operation went catastrophically wrong, Sarah would discover that being overlooked was about to become her greatest advantage. Because sometimes, the person everyone ignores is exactly the person everyone needs. What you're about to read isn't just another military story. It's a testament to the power of quiet strength, the danger of assumptions, and the moment when everything you thought you knew about heroism gets turned upside down. This is the true account of how one woman's refusal to stay invisible saved not just a SEAL commander's life, but changed the way an entire unit understood what it really means to be essential. Lieutenant Sarah Chen adjusted her headset for the third time in 10 minutes, her fingers moving with practiced precision across the communication console. The pre-dawn darkness of the operations center was broken only by the soft glow of multiple screens displaying encrypted channels, satellite feeds, and real-time mission data. Around her, the controlled chaos of a SEAL team preparing for deployment filled the air with the familiar symphony of weapon checks, equipment verification, and quiet professional banter. She had been part of SEAL Team 7's support structure for 3 years, serving as their primary communications specialist. Her job was to maintain contact between the team and command, ensure secure data transmission, and monitor intelligence feeds that could affect mission parameters. It was critical work that required exceptional skill, unwavering focus, and the ability to make split-second decisions that could save lives. Yet somehow, Sarah often felt like a piece of expensive furniture that everyone used but never really saw. Commander Jake Morrison strode through the operations center, his presence commanding immediate attention from everyone except Sarah, who continued her system checks with methodical efficiency. At 38, Morrison was the kind of leader who inspired confidence through action rather than words. His reputation was built on successful missions, 0 casualties under his command, and an almost supernatural ability to bring his team home safe. The men respected him, command trusted him, and Sarah had spent countless hours ensuring his operations ran smoothly from a technical standpoint. "Chen, status report?" Morrison's voice cut through her concentration as he approached her station. "All communication channels secure, sir. Satellite uplink stable, emergency frequencies clear, and backup systems tested and ready," she responded without looking up from her screens. "Intelligence feeds are current, and I have redundant contact protocols established with base command." Morrison nodded briefly, already turning away to address his team leader. It was the same interaction they had before every mission. Professional, efficient, and utterly impersonal. Sarah had long since stopped expecting anything more than functional acknowledgement of her role. The mission briefing began at more 0400 hours. Sarah took her usual position at the back of the room, laptop open, ready to pull up any technical specifications or communication protocols the team might need. Morrison stood before a large display showing satellite imagery of their target location, a suspected weapons cache in a mountainous region where 3 previous reconnaissance attempts had failed to gather sufficient intelligence. "Primary objective is confirmation and documentation of weapons stockpiles," Morrison explained, his laser pointer marking key locations on the terrain map. "Secondary objective is identification of trafficking routes. We insert here, move through this valley system, establish overwatch position here, and conduct surveillance for 12 hours before extraction." Sarah studied the terrain data she had compiled over the past week. Something about the topographical readings troubled her, but she hesitated to speak up. The previous month, she had raised concerns about weather patterns affecting radio transmission during a mission in Afghanistan. Morrison had listened politely, then proceeded with the original communication plan. When the weather did indeed interfere with radio contact, requiring her to improvise alternative connection methods mid-mission, no one mentioned her earlier warning. Senior Chief Petty Officer Rick Torres raised his hand. "Sir, what's our contingency if we encounter hostile forces?" "Standard protocols apply. We're going in light and fast, minimal engagement unless absolutely necessary. Chen will maintain communication oversight and coordinate any required support." Sarah noted the mission parameters in her log. Light and fast meant limited backup communication equipment. In terrain like this, with its electromagnetic interference patterns that she had identified in the geological surveys, that could prove problematic. But Morrison's tone suggested the briefing was purely informational rather than collaborative. After the briefing, the team dispersed to make final preparations. Sarah remained at her station, running diagnostic checks and preparing contingency protocols she hoped they would never need. Her communication systems were more than equipment, they were lifelines. Every frequency calibration, every backup channel, every encryption key could mean the difference between a successful mission and a catastrophe. Chen, you ready for another long night? Petty Officer Mike Rodriguez stopped by her station, one of the few team members who regularly acknowledged her presence beyond professional necessity. Always, she replied, managing a small smile. Rodriguez was a good soldier and a decent person, but even his friendliness carried an undertone that reminded her of her position on the periphery of the team's brotherhood. Morrison's been tense about this one, third attempt at getting intel on this location. Previous teams couldn't get close enough to gather useful data. Sarah pulled up the after-action reports from those previous missions. Both had been hampered by communication difficulties and unexpected terrain challenges. Both had been forced to abort when they lost contact with base command for extended periods. The pattern was obvious to her, but apparently not to the mission planners, who kept sending teams into an area where standard communication protocols faced significant environmental interference. Maybe the third time will be the charm, she said diplomatically, though privately she doubted it. Unless they adapted their communication approach to account for the unique challenges of this particular environment, they were likely to encounter the same problems that had plagued the previous attempts. 2 hours before departure, Sarah made a decision that went against her usual protocol. She approached Morrison directly, catching him as he finished inspecting his gear. "Sir, I've reviewed the communication failures from the previous missions to this location. The terrain creates significant interference patterns that standard radio frequencies can't penetrate effectively. I'd like to recommend some modifications to our communication plan." Morrison looked up from his equipment check, his expression patient but clearly pressed for time. "What kind of modifications?" "Low-frequency backup systems, alternative relay positions, and modified transmission protocols that can better handle the electromagnetic interference in that mountain region. The geological composition creates a natural barrier to our normal communication channels. Chen, we've operated in mountain terrain dozens of times. Our communication systems are proven and reliable." "Yes, sir, but this particular location has unique characteristics that," she began, then stopped as she saw his expression shift toward mild irritation. "Of course, sir. I'll maintain standard protocols." Morrison's attention had already returned to his gear. "Make sure you have backup batteries for the long-range radio. It's going to be a long surveillance period." Sarah returned to her station, feeling familiar frustration. Her expertise in communication systems extended far beyond operating the equipment. She understood how terrain, weather, atmospheric conditions, and even mineral compositions could affect signal transmission. She had studied the technical specifications of their destination for weeks, identifying potential problems and developing solutions, but her role was apparently to operate the systems, not to improve them. The pre-dawn air was crisp as the team loaded into their transport helicopter. Sarah secured her communication equipment in the designated area, running mental checklists of every component, every backup system, every contingency protocol she might need. Her gear included not just the standard-issued equipment, but additional components she had requisitioned and modified based on her analysis of the mission requirements. As the helicopter lifted off, Sarah watched the base disappear below them. In 6 hours, they would be inserted into terrain where 2 previous teams had lost communication and been forced to abort their missions. She was the only person on the helicopter who seemed concerned about repeating that pattern. Commander Morrison sat across from her, studying mission notes in the red light of the helicopter's interior. His confidence was evident in his relaxed posture and focused preparation. He had successfully completed 43 operations without losing a single team member. His track record spoke for itself. But Sarah knew that track record had been built partially on the foundation of her communication systems working flawlessly, ensuring that critical information flowed seamlessly between the team and their support structure. The other team members displayed the quiet professionalism of seasoned operators. They trusted their equipment, their training, and their commander. None of them seemed troubled by the fact that 2 previous teams had encountered serious problems in exactly the location they were heading mission ahead, not on the technical details of how that mission would be supported. The helicopter touched down in a clearing surrounded by steep mountain terrain. Sarah gathered her equipment and followed the team into the pre-dawn darkness, knowing that the next 12 hours would test not just her technical skills, but her ability to keep 7 lives connected to safety when standard procedures proved inadequate for the challenges ahead. Plus, the helicopter disappeared into the darkness, leaving SEAL Team 7 alone in hostile territory. Sarah felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders as she activated her communication systems and established contact with Base Command. The initial transmission was clear, but she could already detect the subtle signal degradation that would worsen as they moved deeper into the mountain terrain. Base, this is Overwatch. Team 7 on ground, all systems green. She transmitted, using the mission call sign Morrison had assigned her. Copy, Overwatch. We have you clear and strong. Maintain standard check-in protocol. Morrison signaled for the team to move out. They had a 3-hour trek to reach their surveillance position, following a route that would take them through increasingly challenging terrain. Sarah adjusted her pack, ensuring her communication equipment was properly secured, while remaining easily accessible for the regular check-ins that would keep them connected to Base Command. The team moved in standard formation, with Morrison taking point and Sarah positioned in the middle of the group where she could best protect her equipment while maintaining easy communication with the team leader. The mountain air was thin and cold, and their movement was deliberately slow to minimize noise and avoid detection. After the first hour of movement, Sarah noticed the signal quality beginning to degrade, exactly as she had predicted. The geological interference was subtle but measurable, creating slight delays and occasional static in transmission. She compensated by adjusting frequency settings and increasing transmission power, maintaining clear communication while carefully monitoring her battery levels. Base, this is Overwatch. 1 hour into movement, all team members accounted for. No contact with hostiles, she reported during their scheduled check-in. Copy, Overwatch. Signal is showing some degradation but still readable. Sarah acknowledged the transmission while making mental notes about the rate of signal deterioration. At their current pace, they would reach the surveillance position just as communication quality dropped to marginal levels. Unless she implemented the modifications she had wanted to discuss with Morrison, they would likely lose contact with Base Command entirely within the next few hours. During their first rest stop, she approached Morrison with her concerns. Sir, we're experiencing signal degradation consistent with my predictions about this terrain. I recommend implementing some frequency adjustments and alternative relay protocols before we lose contact entirely. Morrison checked his watch and studied their position on his GPS unit. How much degradation are we talking about? Currently about 15% and increasing. Based on the terrain ahead and the geological composition, I estimate we'll lose reliable contact within 2 hours unless we modify our approach. Can you maintain contact with current systems? Sarah hesitated, knowing her answer would determine whether Morrison considered her suggestions or dismissed them. I can probably maintain contact, but it will require constant adjustments and may not be reliable enough for emergency situations. Morrison considered this information while studying the route ahead. They were making good time and had encountered no signs of hostile forces. Deviating from standard procedures based on theoretical communication problems seemed unnecessary when the current systems were still functional. Maintain current protocols for now. If communication becomes problematic, we'll adapt as needed. Sarah nodded and returned to her equipment, understanding that Morrison's decision was based on successful experience with standard procedures. But she also understood that this terrain presented challenges their previous missions had not encountered. The 2 previous teams that had attempted surveillance of this location had both lost communication at approximately the same point in their route that Team 7 was now approaching. The team resumed movement toward their surveillance position. As they climbed higher into the mountain terrain, Sarah watched her signal strength indicators steadily decline. The interference patterns were exactly what she had predicted, and her equipment was performing within normal parameters for standard communication protocols. The problem was that normal parameters were insufficient for the unique challenges of this environment. 2 hours later, as the team established their surveillance position overlooking the suspected weapons cache, Sarah's communication with Base Command became intermittent. She could maintain contact, but transmissions required multiple attempts, and signal clarity was marginal. Emergency communication would be extremely difficult under current conditions. Base, this is Overwatch. Team 7 in position, beginning surveillance operation, she transmitted, having to repeat the message twice before receiving acknowledgement. Copy, Overwatch. Signal very weak but readable. Maintain scheduled check-ins. Morrison set up his observation equipment and began documenting the target area. The suspected weapons cache appeared to be larger and more active than intelligence reports had indicated, with multiple buildings and clear signs of recent activity. This was exactly the kind of intelligence previous teams had been unable to gather due to communication problems that forced early mission abort. Sarah monitored multiple communication channels while maintaining watch over the team's security. Her position provided excellent observation of their approach routes, and her communication equipment allowed her to monitor hostile radio traffic in the area. But her primary concern was the steadily deteriorating link to base command that would leave them isolated if emergency extraction became necessary. During the fourth hour of surveillance, Morrison documented what appeared to be a significant weapons transfer operation. Multiple vehicles had arrived at the target location, and personnel were moving what looked like military-grade equipment between buildings. This was intelligence that could have strategic implications, but only if they could successfully transmit the information back to base command. Chen, I need to send a priority transmission with grid coordinates and target assessment data, Morrison said quietly, moving to her position. Sarah attempted to establish contact with base command, but the signal strength had deteriorated beyond reliable transmission levels. She tried multiple frequencies and power settings, but the geological interference was now overwhelming their standard communication protocols. Sir, I cannot establish reliable contact with base using current systems. I can probably get through, but the transmission would be incomplete and potentially compromised. Morrison studied the target area through his binoculars, weighing the value of the intelligence they were gathering against the risk of extended communication blackout. This was exactly the situation that had forced previous teams to abort their missions. How long until scheduled check-in? 15 minutes, sir. But I don't think I can maintain contact for a full transmission. Morrison made a decision that demonstrated his confidence in his team's ability to complete the mission despite communication challenges. Continue surveillance. We'll maintain radio silence until you can re-establish reliable contact. Sarah understood the tactical reasoning behind Morrison's decision, but she also understood that they were now operating beyond the safety margin provided by base command oversight. If they encountered hostile forces or needed emergency extraction, their options would be severely limited. For the next 3 hours, the team maintained surveillance while completely isolated from base command. Morrison documented extensive intelligence about the weapons cache operation, including personnel counts, equipment types, and operational patterns. It was exactly the kind of information their mission had been designed to collect. But without communication capability, they had no way to transmit the intelligence or call for support if needed. Sarah spent those 3 hours implementing the modifications she had wanted to discuss with Morrison before the mission. Working quietly with her equipment, she adjusted frequency settings, reconfigured transmission protocols, and set up alternative relay systems that could better handle the terrain-specific interference patterns. During the 7th hour of surveillance, the tactical situation changed dramatically. A convoy of vehicles approached the target area from a route the team had not anticipated, moving directly through their planned extraction zone. Morrison observed the new arrivals through his scope, counting personnel and weapons while assessing the threat level to his team. Chen, I need immediate contact with base command. We have a developing situation that requires extraction route modification. Sarah activated the modified communication systems she had been preparing. The alternative frequencies and transmission protocols she had implemented worked exactly as she had predicted, cutting through the geological interference to establish clear contact with base command. Base, this is Overwatch. Emergency traffic priority transmission. Overwatch, this is base. We've been trying to reach you for 3 hours. What's your status? Sarah felt a moment of vindication hearing the clear, strong signal that proved her modifications were working. Team 7 is secure and has been conducting surveillance as planned. We have priority intelligence to transmit and require immediate extraction route modification due to hostile activity in primary extraction zone. Morrison moved to her position, and Sarah handed him the microphone. For the next 10 minutes, he transmitted detailed intelligence about the weapons cache operation and coordinated alternative extraction procedures with base command. The communication link remained clear and reliable throughout the transmission, proving that Sarah's terrain-specific modifications were working exactly as designed. After completing the transmission, Morrison looked at Sarah with a new expression of respect and recognition. How long have you had this communication capability?
I implemented the modifications during our surveillance period, sir.
These are the systems I wanted to discuss before insertion. Morrison studied her equipment setup, noting the additional components and modified configurations that had enabled their successful transmission. Why didn't you implement these earlier? Well, Sarah chose her words carefully, not wanting to sound critical of his decision-making. The modifications required deviation from standard protocols. I wanted your approval before making changes. Morrison understood immediately that his dismissal of her earlier recommendations had nearly resulted in mission failure. The intelligence they had gathered was critical, but without the communication capability to transmit it, the entire operation would have been worthless. His decision to proceed with standard protocols had been based on successful previous experience, but Sarah's expertise had proven essential for success in this unique environment. As the team prepared for extraction using the alternative route Sarah had helped coordinate, Morrison made a decision that would change the dynamic of their professional relationship. Chen, from now on, you have my authorization to implement whatever communication modifications you determine are necessary for mission success. Your technical expertise is critical to team safety, and I should have listened to your recommendations earlier. The helicopter extraction proceeded smoothly, with Sarah maintaining clear communication between the team and air support throughout the operation. As they lifted off from the mountain terrain, she looked down at the challenging environment where two previous teams had failed to complete their missions. The difference had been her ability to adapt standard communication protocols to meet the specific challenges of the terrain and tactical situation. During the flight back to base, Morrison reviewed the intelligence they had gathered and the communication challenges they had overcome. Sarah's technical expertise had enabled them to succeed where previous teams had failed, and her ability to adapt her systems during the mission had prevented what could have been a dangerous situation when hostile forces changed the tactical picture. As the base came into view, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment that went beyond successful completion of another mission. For the first time in 3 years, her expertise had been fully recognized and valued by her commander. But she also understood that this mission had been just the beginning of a much more significant challenge that would test not just her technical skills, but her courage and determination in ways she could not yet imagine. 3 weeks after their successful mountain surveillance operation, SEAL Team 7 received intelligence about a high-value target that would test their capabilities in ways none of them anticipated. Sarah sat in the briefing room, her laptop displaying communication protocols for what appeared to be a routine hostage rescue operation. But as she studied the mission parameters, something felt fundamentally wrong about the entire scenario. The intelligence indicated that a group of American contractors had been taken hostage by insurgents operating from a compound in a remote valley. Initial reconnaissance suggested minimal security and a straightforward tactical approach. Morrison would lead a team of 6 operators in a dawn assault, with Sarah providing communication support from a nearby observation position. Primary objective is recovery of 3 American hostages, Morrison explained, pointing to satellite imagery of the target compound. Secondary objective is capture or elimination of hostile leadership. Intelligence indicates 8 to 12 enemy fighters with small arms only. Sarah studied the compound layout and surrounding terrain while cross-referencing the intelligence reports with her own analysis of the area. The location was in a region known for sophisticated enemy operations, yet the intelligence portrayed an almost amateurish setup. The communication intercepts she had been monitoring showed patterns that didn't match the simple scenario being presented. "Sir," she said, raising her hand during the briefing, "I've been analyzing communication traffic from this region, and the patterns suggest a much more sophisticated enemy presence than our intelligence indicates." Morrison looked up from his notes. Since their mountain mission, he had begun soliciting Sarah's technical input more regularly, recognizing her analytical capabilities extended beyond simple equipment operation. What kind of patterns? Frequency hopping, encryption protocols, and communication discipline that indicates military training rather than insurgent operations. The radio traffic suggests coordination with multiple positions that aren't shown in our intelligence reports. Lieutenant Commander David Walsh, the intelligence officer who had prepared the briefing, looked skeptical. "Our sources have been reliable, and satellite imagery confirms minimal enemy presence." Sarah pulled up her communication analysis on the main screen. The satellite imagery shows the compound, but the radio intercepts suggest hidden positions in the surrounding hills. The communication patterns indicate this could be a much larger operation than we're planning for. Morrison studied her analysis while comparing it to the official intelligence assessment. Sarah's technical expertise had proven valuable during their previous mission, but contradicting formal intelligence reports was a significant step beyond her usual role. "How confident are you in this assessment?" "The radio intercepts are clear, sir. Someone in that area is operating sophisticated communication equipment and coordinating activities across multiple positions. It doesn't match the intelligence picture we've been given." Walsh maintained his position that the formal intelligence was accurate, pointing out that Sarah's communication intercepts could be from unrelated activities in the region. The debate continued for several minutes. with Morrison weighing conflicting assessments of the threat level they would face. In the end, Morrison decided to proceed with the mission as planned while incorporating additional caution based on Sarah's analysis. They would maintain the original timeline and approach, but with enhanced communication protocols and contingency planning for a larger enemy presence than officially anticipated. 6 hours later, the team inserted via helicopter into terrain that looked exactly like the satellite imagery had indicated. Sarah established her communication position on a hilltop overlooking the target compound, while Morrison led his assault team toward their objective. Everything appeared to confirm the official intelligence assessment. Base, this is Overwatch. Team 7 in position, beginning approach to target. Copy Overwatch. All stations report ready. Sarah monitored multiple communication channels while maintaining visual observation of the assault team's approach. The compound appeared quiet, with minimal activity visible in the early morning light. Her earlier concerns about sophisticated enemy communications seemed to have been unfounded. Morrison's team reached the compound perimeter without encountering resistance. The tactical situation matched their intelligence predictions perfectly. Sarah began to question whether her communication analysis had been accurate or whether she had misinterpreted radio traffic from unrelated sources. Overwatch, this is Team Leader. Beginning entry phase now. Sarah acknowledged the transmission while scanning the surrounding terrain through her binoculars. The hilltops where her communication intercepts had suggested hidden enemy positions remained completely silent. No movement, no radio traffic, no indication of the sophisticated operation she had detected in her analysis. The assault team entered the compound and began clearing buildings systematically. Their progress was smooth and professional, encountering no resistance and finding evidence of recent habitation, but no hostages or enemy fighters. It appeared to be either a case of outdated intelligence or a location that had been abandoned before their arrival. Overwatch. Compound appears empty. No hostiles, no hostages. Conducting thorough search now. Sarah acknowledged Morrison's transmission while continuing to monitor the communication channels where she had detected sophisticated enemy activity. The radio traffic had gone completely silent since the team's insertion, which could indicate either that her analysis had been incorrect or that someone was maintaining communication discipline during the American operation. 15 minutes into the compound search, Sarah's monitoring equipment detected the first sign that her earlier analysis had been accurate. A brief radio transmission in the ultra-high frequency range, using military-grade encryption, originated from one of the hilltop positions she had identified as suspicious. Team Leader, I'm detecting encrypted radio traffic from hill positions around your location. Someone is coordinating activities in your immediate area. Morrison's response was immediate and concerned. Overwatch, compound search complete. No hostages, no immediate threats, but finding evidence of recent sophisticated planning activities. Recommend immediate extraction. Sarah began coordinating extraction procedures while monitoring the radio traffic that was now increasing in volume and urgency. Multiple positions were communicating using equipment and protocols that confirmed her analysis of a much larger and more sophisticated operation than the intelligence briefing had indicated. Base, this is Overwatch. Request immediate extraction for Team 7. We have indications of large-scale hostile activity in the area. Copy Overwatch. Extraction helicopter en route, 20 minutes to your location. 20 minutes that would prove to be the longest of Sarah's military career. As Morrison's team began moving toward their extraction zone, the sophisticated enemy operation that Sarah had detected through her communication analysis revealed itself in devastating fashion. Coordinated fire erupted from multiple concealed positions in the hills surrounding the compound, creating a precisely planned ambush that trapped the assault team in the valley. Overwatch, we are taking effective fire from multiple positions. I say again, we are under attack from multiple directions. Sarah watched in horror as tracer rounds converged on her teammate's position from at least 6 different locations. The enemy had used the hostage rescue scenario as bait to lure an American special operations team into a carefully prepared killing ground. Base, this is Overwatch. Team 7 is under heavy attack from prepared positions. Request immediate close air support and emergency extraction. Copy Overwatch, air support en route, but 15 minutes out. Extraction helicopter is holding until area is secure. 15 minutes that Morrison and his team didn't have. Sarah found herself in a position no communication specialist was trained for. Her team was trapped in an ambush that she had predicted but failed to prevent. The sophisticated enemy operation was unfolding exactly as her communication analysis had suggested, and now 6 lives depended on her ability to do something beyond her normal responsibilities. Team Leader, this is Overwatch. I'm tracking enemy positions through their radio traffic. I can provide targeting information for your return fire. Copy, Overwatch. Send it. For the next 10 minutes, Sarah used her communication equipment to intercept enemy radio transmissions and determine their exact positions. By triangulating their radio signals and correlating them with visual observation, she could provide Morrison's team with precise targeting information that allowed them to return effective fire despite being outnumbered and surrounded. Team leader, enemy position Alpha is grid 4, 7, 2, 9, 1, 5. Approximately 800 meters north of your position. They're coordinating movement to flank your location. Morrison's team engaged the position Sarah had identified, using her real-time intelligence to counter enemy movements before they could be completed. Her communication intercepts were providing them with advance warning of enemy tactics and allowing them to respond proactively rather than reactively. But the enemy forces were larger and better prepared than even Sarah's analysis had suggested. Despite her technical support, Morrison's team was being systematically overwhelmed by superior numbers and positioned firepower. The extraction helicopter couldn't approach under such heavy fire, and close air support was still several minutes away. Overwatch, we cannot maintain current position, taking casualties and running low on ammunition. Sarah made a decision that went completely against her training and protocol. Her position on the hilltop provided her with visual observation of the entire battlefield and communication intercept capability that was keeping Morrison's team alive. Standard procedure would be to maintain her position and continue providing technical support. Instead, she gathered her most portable communication equipment and began moving toward the assault team's position. Team leader, Overwatch is moving to your location with additional communication assets. Negative, Overwatch. Maintain your position. That's an order. Sarah ignored Morrison's order and continued moving toward the trap team, carrying communication equipment that could provide them with capabilities they desperately needed. Her analysis of enemy radio traffic had revealed coordination with additional forces moving to surround Morrison's position. If she could get close enough to jam their communications or intercept their tactical plans, she might be able to create the opportunity Morrison needed to break out of the ambush. As she moved down the hillside toward the compound, Sarah understood that she was abandoning her designated role and entering a situation far beyond her training or experience, but she also understood that her unique combination of technical expertise and battlefield awareness made her the only person who could provide what Morrison's team needed to survive. The sound of gunfire grew louder as she approached the compound, and she could see muzzle flashes from multiple enemy positions that had Morrison's team pinned down behind limited cover. Her communication equipment was intercepting increasingly urgent enemy radio traffic as they coordinated their final assault on the trapped Americans. Sarah reached the compound perimeter just as the enemy forces began their coordinated attack that was designed to overwhelm Morrison's position. Everything she had learned about communication systems, battlefield analysis, and tactical coordination would be tested in the next few minutes as she attempted to use her technical expertise to save 7 lives in a situation where technology alone would not be enough. Sarah reached the compound wall as enemy forces began their final coordinated assault on Morrison's position. Her portable communication equipment was receiving multiple radio transmissions that revealed the full scope of the trap they had walked into. 23 enemy fighters were positioned in a carefully planned ambush, with additional forces moving to block all possible escape routes. Team leader, this is Overwatch. I'm at the compound perimeter with enemy communication intercepts. Shen, I ordered you to maintain your position. Fall back immediately. Sir, I can hear their coordination. They're about to overrun your position from 3 directions. You have less than 2 minutes before they attack. Sarah's voice was steady despite the gunfire around her, her training taking over as she processed the tactical situation through her technical expertise. The enemy communications were revealing their attack plan in real time, providing Morrison with intelligence that could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. Morrison's team was positioned behind a low stone wall that provided minimal cover from the converging enemy forces. Petty Officer Rodriguez was wounded in the leg, and their ammunition was running dangerously low. Senior Chief Torres was trying to establish contact with the approaching air support, but the enemy's sophisticated jamming equipment was interfering with their standard radio frequencies. Overwatch, we cannot reach air support. Enemy jamming is blocking our frequencies. Sarah activated her most sophisticated communication equipment, systems she had never used in actual combat, but had tested extensively for exactly this type of electronic warfare scenario. Team leader, I'm implementing counter-jamming protocols. Give me 30 seconds. Working with equipment designed for technical specialists rather than battlefield conditions, Sarah began electronic warfare operations that went far beyond her normal communication responsibilities. Her counter-jamming systems were designed to penetrate sophisticated enemy electronic warfare capabilities, but using them under fire while coordinating with a trapped team required skills that existed at the intersection of technical expertise and combat experience. Base. This is Overwatch breaking through enemy jamming. Team 7 is under heavy attack at grid 4, 7, 8, 2, 1. 6. Request immediate close air support and emergency extraction. Overwatch, this is base. We've been trying to reach you for 20 minutes. Air support is 3 minutes out, but extraction cannot proceed until the area is secure. 3 minutes that Morrison's team did not have. Sarah's communication intercepts revealed that the enemy forces were preparing to rush Morrison's position from 3 directions simultaneously. Their coordination was sophisticated and their timing was precise. Without intervention, the assault team would be overwhelmed within the next 60 seconds. Team leader, enemy assault begins in 1 minute. North wall, east wall, and south approach. 12 fighters total in the assault wave. Morrison acknowledged the intelligence while directing his team to prepare for the coordinated attack. They had perhaps 40 rounds of ammunition remaining and were facing overwhelming odds. Even with advance warning of the enemy's plan, their tactical situation was desperate. Sarah made a decision that would define the rest of her military career. Her communication equipment included electronic warfare capabilities that could disrupt enemy coordination, but using them effectively required her to move closer to the enemy positions and expose herself to direct fire. Team leader, I'm going to jam their communications during their assault. It will disrupt their coordination and give you an opportunity to break contact. Negative, Chen. Do not leave cover. That's a direct order. Sarah was already moving, carrying her electronic warfare equipment towards a position that would allow her to effectively target the enemy communication systems. Her technical training had taught her that successful jamming required precise positioning and timing. Her tactical awareness told her that Morrison's team would die without intervention. The first enemy fighters appeared at the compound walls just as Sarah activated her jamming systems. The sophisticated equipment immediately disrupted the radio frequencies the enemy was using for coordination, creating confusion and hesitation in their precisely timed assault. Without radio coordination, the three-pronged attack became disorganized. Enemy fighters lost contact with their leaders and began hesitating instead of advancing with coordinated timing. Morrison's team used the confusion to shift positions and establish better defensive lines. Overwatch, enemy advance has slowed. What did you do? Jamming their communications, sir. But I can only maintain this for about 3 minutes before they adapt their frequencies. Sarah's position behind a damaged concrete wall provided her with the technical positioning she needed to maintain effective jamming, but also exposed her to enemy fire as they began targeting the source of their communication disruption. Bullets struck the concrete around her position as enemy fighters identified her as a high-priority target. Morrison used the communication disruption to coordinate his team's movement toward better cover. They were able to reach a more defensible position and establish fields of fire that prevented the enemy from completing their assault. But the temporary advantage would disappear as soon as the enemy adapted to the jamming or Sarah's equipment was damaged by enemy fire. Team leader, air support is 60 seconds out. Can you mark target positions for close air support? Affirmative, Overwatch, but we need your position to coordinate targeting. Sarah was now in an impossible situation. Her communication equipment was providing Morrison's team with the intelligence and electronic warfare capabilities they needed to survive, but maintaining those capabilities required her to remain in a position that exposed her to increasing enemy fire. Moving would reduce her effectiveness, but staying might result in her equipment being destroyed or herself being killed. The sound of approaching aircraft provided hope that air support would arrive in time to change the tactical situation. But coordinate close air support required precise communication between the ground team and the attacking aircraft, communication that would be impossible if Sarah's equipment was damaged or if she was unable to maintain contact. Enemy fire intensified as fighters realized that disrupting the American communication specialist would restore their coordination and allow them to complete their assault. Bullets struck increasingly close to Sarah's position as she worked with equipment designed for technical specialists rather than combat operations. Overwatch, air support on station. Need immediate targeting data for danger close engagement. Sarah activated her most sophisticated targeting systems, equipment that could provide precise coordinates for airstrikes while minimizing risk to friendly forces. But using the systems under fire required steady hands and clear thinking, despite the increasingly dangerous tactical situation. Air support, this is Overwatch. Transmitting targeting coordinates for hostile positions. Danger close, friendlies at grid 4, 7, 8, 2, 1.8. The precision of Sarah's targeting data allowed the air support to engage enemy positions with devastating effectiveness. Her technical expertise enabled the pilots to distinguish between enemy and friendly positions, even in the confusing tactical environment, delivering strikes that eliminated multiple enemy positions without endangering Morrison's team. But the airstrikes also revealed Sarah's position to every enemy fighter in the area. Her communication equipment made her a priority target, and enemy fire converged on her position with increasing accuracy and intensity.
Overwatch, air support has neutralized primary threat positions.
Extraction helicopter en route, 2 minutes out. Sarah's relief at hearing the extraction timeline was interrupted by the sound of enemy fighters moving directly toward her position. Her jamming equipment had disrupted their coordination. Her targeting data had enabled effective air support, but now her exposed position had made her the primary target for remaining enemy forces. Team leader, enemy forces are moving on my position. I may not be able to maintain communication for extraction coordination. Morrison's response was immediate and decisive. Overwatch, we are moving to your location. Maintain position and keep jamming their communications. Sarah watched Morrison's team begin moving toward her position under fire, understanding that they were risking their own safety to protect the communication specialist who had enabled their survival. The tactical situation had completely reversed from the beginning of the mission, when Sarah had been the protected support element. Now she was the exposed team member, requiring rescue by the operators she was supposed to be supporting. Enemy fighters reached the perimeter of Sarah's position just as Morrison's team arrived to provide cover fire. The tactical engagement became a close-quarters battle between American Special Operations Forces and enemy fighters who were trying to eliminate the communication specialist whose technical expertise had disrupted their carefully planned ambush.
Extraction helicopter on final approach.
Overwatch, can you coordinate landing zone guidance? Sarah activated her final communication protocol while enemy fire continued to target her position. Her equipment was damaged but still functional, providing the precision guidance necessary for helicopter extraction under fire. The technical systems that had enabled Morrison's team to survive the ambush would now enable their escape. Extraction bird, this is Overwatch. Landing zone marked, friendly smoke deployed, all friendly personnel accounted for. The extraction helicopter's approach provided covering fire that suppressed the remaining enemy positions. Morrison's team reached Sarah's position and established a defensive perimeter around her communication equipment. Together they moved toward the extraction point while Sarah maintained contact with the helicopter crew. As the helicopter lifted off with Team 7 aboard, Sarah looked down at the compound where her technical expertise had been tested in ways she had never imagined. Her communication and electronic warfare capabilities had proven essential for the team's survival, but the experience had also revealed capabilities and courage she hadn't known she possessed. Morrison sat across from her in the helicopter, his expression showing a level of respect and recognition that went far beyond their previous professional relationship. Chen, your actions today saved 7 lives. Your technical expertise and tactical decision-making were exceptional. Sarah nodded while securing her damaged communication equipment, understanding that this mission had changed not only how Morrison viewed her capabilities, but how she viewed herself. The invisible communication specialist who had been overlooked for 3 years had proven herself capable of decisive action under the most challenging circumstances. But as the helicopter carried them back to base, Sarah also understood that their survival had been purchased at a cost that would have lasting implications. The sophisticated enemy operation they had encountered represented a new level of threat, and her technical analysis had revealed intelligence capabilities that would require significant changes to their operational procedures. The mission had ended successfully, but it had also revealed challenges that would test her expertise and courage in ways that made their current survival seem like only the beginning of a much larger and more dangerous operation. The after-action briefing took place 18 hours after Team 7's extraction, in a secure conference room filled with personnel ranging from Morrison's immediate command structure to intelligence analysts from multiple agencies. Sarah sat at the main briefing table rather than her usual position at the back of the room, her damaged communication equipment displayed as evidence of the sophisticated enemy capabilities they had encountered. The enemy operation was significantly more complex than our intelligence indicated, Morrison began, addressing the assembled personnel. Without Lieutenant Chen's communication analysis and electronic warfare capabilities, we would have lost the entire team. Sarah felt uncomfortable with the level of attention focused on her role in the mission's success. For 3 years, she had operated in the background, providing critical support while others received recognition for operational achievements. Now she was being presented as the primary reason for mission success in front of personnel who had never acknowledged her expertise. Colonel James Harrison, the task force commander, studied the communication intercepts and electronic warfare data that Sarah had compiled during the mission.
Lieutenant Chen, your analysis indicated sophisticated enemy capabilities weeks before our intelligence services identified the threat. How did you develop this assessment?
Sarah activated her laptop and displayed the communication analysis that had revealed the true nature of the enemy operation.
Sir, I monitor communication patterns across multiple frequencies and regions as part of standard intelligence gathering. The patterns I detected indicated military-grade equipment and coordination protocols that didn't match typical insurgent operations. Why wasn't this assessment included in our formal intelligence evaluation? The question created an uncomfortable moment, as intelligence analysts who had prepared the official briefing were forced to explain why they had dismissed Sarah's technical analysis. Lieutenant Commander Walsh, who had originally disputed her assessment, looked uncomfortable as he reviewed data that had proven completely accurate. The communication intercepts were considered inconclusive without corroborating human intelligence sources, Walsh explained. Radio traffic analysis was not considered sufficient evidence to contradict established intelligence assessments. Colonel Harrison studied the timeline of events, noting that Sarah's technical analysis had been available 3 weeks before the mission, but had been excluded from official planning.
Lieutenant Chen, if your analysis had been incorporated into mission planning, how would you have recommended we proceed? Sarah had been dreading this question because answering it honestly would require criticizing decision-making processes and personnel who significantly outranked her. But the data was clear, and her analysis had been proven accurate under the most challenging circumstances possible.
Sir, the communication patterns indicated a sophisticated trap designed to lure American Special Operations Forces into a prepared ambush. I would have recommended either aborting the mission or significantly modifying our approach to account for the actual threat level. Would those modifications have prevented the tactical situation we encountered? Yes, sir. The enemy's primary advantage was surprise and coordination. If we had approached the operation understanding the true threat level, we could have used different insertion methods, alternative timing, or additional support assets to counter their prepared positions. Resentment to Morrison. Commander, what is your assessment of Lieutenant Chen's role in mission success? Morrison had spent the previous 18 hours reviewing every aspect of the mission, analyzing decisions that had nearly resulted in the loss of his entire team. His assessment was uncompromising and definitive. Sir, Lieutenant Chen's technical expertise saved 7 lives through multiple phases of the operation. Her communication analysis provided advance warning of enemy capabilities. Her electronic warfare intervention disrupted enemy coordination during their assault. Her precision targeting enabled effective close air support. Her communication coordination enabled successful extraction under fire. Without her expertise and initiative, this briefing would be a casualty notification rather than an operational assessment. The room fell silent as Morrison's evaluation made clear that Sarah's contributions had been far more significant than anyone had recognized. Her technical expertise had proven essential, not just for mission success, but for basic survival in an environment where standard procedures had proven inadequate. Sarah felt overwhelmed by the recognition, but also troubled by the implications of what Morrison was describing. Her role in the mission had expanded far beyond communication support to include intelligence analysis, electronic warfare operations, tactical coordination, and battlefield decision-making. She had succeeded, but only by abandoning established protocols and assuming responsibilities that went far beyond her training and experience. Colonel Harrison made a series of decisions that would fundamentally change how Sarah's expertise was utilized within the task force structure. Lieutenant Chen, effective immediately, you are assigned as Senior Communication and Electronic Warfare Specialist for all high-priority operations. Your technical analysis will be incorporated into intelligence planning from the initial stages. Your equipment and operational authority are being upgraded to reflect your expanded responsibilities. The promotion was everything Sarah had worked toward during her 3 years with SEAL Team 7, but it also carried implications that concerned her. Her success in the field had been achieved through technical expertise, combined with tactical decision-making under extreme pressure. Replicating that success would require her to operate regularly in situations that tested not just her technical skills, but her ability to make life-and-death decisions affecting entire teams. Morrison approached her after the formal briefing concluded. Chen, I owe you an apology.
For 3 years, I treated you as equipment rather than as a team member. Your expertise deserved recognition, and your recommendations deserve serious consideration. That oversight nearly cost 7 lives. Sarah appreciated Morrison's acknowledgement, but she was also conscious that their professional relationship had changed in ways that created new challenges and expectations. Sir, I was doing my job. The technical analysis and electronic warfare capabilities are part of my responsibilities. No, you went far beyond your responsibilities. When you left your protected position to provide support under fire, you demonstrated leadership and courage that exemplifies the best of special operations. You earned your place on this team through performance, not assignment. Over the following weeks, Sarah's new role required her to work closely with intelligence analysts, mission planners, and operational commanders who had previously dismissed her technical expertise. Her communication analysis became a standard component of mission intelligence, and her electronic warfare capabilities were incorporated into tactical planning for high-priority operations. But the expanded responsibilities also meant regular deployment to combat zones where her technical expertise would be tested under fire. The mission that had proven her capabilities had also established expectations that she would perform at that level consistently, regardless of the tactical challenges involved. 3 months later, Sarah found herself preparing for another high-risk operation, this time as the senior technical specialist responsible for communication and electronic warfare support for a multi-team operation against a sophisticated enemy network. Her equipment had been upgraded, her authority had been expanded, and her expertise was now considered essential rather than supplementary. Morrison approached her station during pre-mission preparations. "Chen, you ready for this one?" Sarah looked up from her equipment checks, noting the difference in Morrison's tone and demeanor compared to their interactions before her proven battlefield performance. "Yes, sir." Communication systems are optimized for the operational environment, electronic warfare capabilities are configured for known enemy protocols, and backup systems are prepared for all identified contingencies.
I'm not asking about your equipment.
I'm asking if you're ready. Sarah understood that Morrison was asking whether she was prepared to make the kind of tactical decisions under fire that had proven necessary during their mountain operation. Her technical expertise was no longer questioned, but her ability to operate effectively in combat situations where split-second decisions affected multiple lives was now a critical component of mission planning. "I'm ready, sir," Morrison nodded, satisfied with her response. "Good. Because this operation is going to test every capability you've developed, and the team is counting on your expertise to bring everyone home." As the team prepared for insertion, Sarah reflected on how completely her role had changed since that first mountain mission where her recommendations had been dismissed. She was no longer the invisible support specialist whose expertise was overlooked. She was now a recognized expert whose technical capabilities and tactical judgment were considered essential for mission success. But recognition had come with expectations that required her to perform consistently at levels that tested the limits of her expertise and courage. Every mission would now include responsibilities that went far beyond technical support to include tactical decision-making that could determine whether her teammates survived or died. The helicopter lifted off toward their objective, carrying a team that now included Sarah as an integral operational component rather than support personnel. Her communication equipment was more sophisticated, her authority was clearly established, and her expertise was fully recognized by commanders and team members alike. As they flew toward another dangerous mission, Sarah understood that her journey from overlooked specialist to recognized expert had been achieved through proven performance under the most challenging circumstances. But she also understood that maintaining that recognition would require her to continue operating at levels that demanded not just technical excellence, but tactical expertise and personal courage that went far beyond anything she had imagined when she first joined SEAL Team 7. The invisible operator had become visible through demonstrated capability when everything depended on her expertise. Now she faced the ongoing challenge of proving that her success had not been a single moment of exceptional performance, but the beginning of a career defined by technical excellence and tactical leadership in the most demanding operational environments the military could present. Commander Morrison caught her eye across the helicopter compartment and nodded, a gesture of respect and confidence that acknowledged her transformation from overlooked support personnel to essential team member. Sarah nodded back, understanding that she had earned her place through performance when survival depended on expertise that could no longer be overlooked or dismissed. The helicopter carried them toward another test of capabilities that would determine whether Sarah's proven expertise could continue to keep her teammates alive in situations where technical excellence and tactical courage would again mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. But this time, she would face those challenges not as an invisible operator,
trying to prove her worth, but as a recognized expert whose capabilities were considered essential for bringing everyone home alive.